All right, so I wanted to introduce a new tool I've been working on. And so something that's been crossed my mind is there's all this nice tooling and using agents is so fun, but we really don't have the Vim or the Emacs of the agents era. And so something open source, something extensible, something that kicks ass. And this is totally free open source software. It's made agents first as the primitive of it. And so not only is it agents first, but it's swarms first. We're moving from single agents to swarms of agents that run for you all overnight. You guys have all seen Ralph loops. It's time to move on from Ralph loops. It's time to go on to swarms of agents. And so if we take a look at this, you can see one swarm I have running now. If we look at the data, it's churning through different PRs, asking for changes, approving things. We can see this is cross client. So right now I have a Claude, a Codex, and a Gemini CLI. And it wraps all these terminals, so you get to use your already existing plans, and you don't have to pay API tokens. And it just shells out to these harnesses. If we look up here, we can see different swarms we've run. So this is one swarm that's currently running. We'll flick back in the past, and we'll say, okay, here's one that went before. This one had 40 different cycles completed. 37 of those got merged, and 3 of those got rejected. So this is built on top of an open source library that I made called Oompa Loompa that manages the swarms for you. And so it lets you set up different roles for each agent, different clients for each agent, and different review, acceptance, and rejected criteria. So you can keep your PRs clean. So launch off these swarms of agents. Every time it does a single cycle, that launches on a single work tree, proposes a review. The reviewer either rejects or asks for changes, and then the agent will go about fixing those changes or merging it. And so if you're wondering what it means to be kind of agent first, but more so swarm first, here's the first feature that really highlights that. If we look in the top right here, we have debug conversation. And so we'll click this. And what it actually does is pops up this new chat window, and you can see it's got information about our swarm that just ran. And we'll say, hey, I want to know how this overnight run went. What went well? Which roles accomplished their jobs? And anything we need to fix or look into. And we'll just kick this off, and that'll go. It's just going to take a bit as this kind of injects the information about what ran. Oompa will give you a log of everything that's happened underneath, and it'll say, here's what we've done, and then it'll point to the actual full conversations on disk. And so this will start to dig in, it'll start to read conversations on disk, it'll start to parse all those, it'll start to see, did you maybe ask for too many reviews and have to fix lots of errors? Did maybe too many things get rejected? Did they work in a direction that wasn't like we expected? Did they not accomplish much? That sort of thing. And so you can make this conversation as long as you want and say, hey, we were working on integration tests. Did those get all done? Did it take longer than expected? Did we create too much slop? Did we expand the size of the code base or shrink it? Any sort of questions you want to ask, you can just ask in chat now. And instead of asking about your code base, you can actually ask it about this swarm of agents that you ran. And so you're able to kind of contain the work to a group and reference your prompts that kicked off that work. And so I'll go ahead and go over here and we'll do what does Oompa Loompa look like underneath the hood. And so this is the library that kicks off the swarms, and it's just one piece of the software. And so the idea is instead of one Ralph loop that kind of goes chaotic, can we take 100 Ralph loops, make them all work together, and have them build one thing all in quick succession. And so it looks a bit like this. Workers make claims, they create their work tree, commits, do a review, rejected, you retry, it kind of repeats that cycle, or it approves and it's remerged to main, and then we go back and create a new cycle. And how do you kick these off? It's actually really simple. And so there's a really tiny little config here, and this just looks like a pile of workers. And then you have what model do you want to run? So that's harness, model name, reasoning effort, supports Claude, Codex, Gemini, Open Code. And then you have a list of prompts. And so you can do one prompt or many prompts here. And so maybe there's a kind of system prompt you want for a cross-role project. Maybe there's prompts you want for planning or for execution. Maybe there's research or front-end or back-end engineering. And then you say, how many cycles do we want? And how many counts of that do we want? And so the nice thing about this is you really don't even have to know that, because if you go in here and you click create new swarm, so we'll go ahead and we'll pick one of our projects here. We'll do Unleashed itself. So this is the name of the IDE that you're looking at right now. So I'm going to go ahead and say, let's kick off a new swarm. I'm going to say, we want to do a bug audit. Can you create a new swarm that uses Codex and Opus agents to review all code for bugs and create tasks for bugs we find? Boom. And so this will kind of inject the information about Oompa. And so you really never need to use the IDE. You don't really have to learn the language of Oompa underneath or how that config works. You might want to just to have a bit of an idea of how it's working underneath the hood. But really, it's just going to inject the information for you. And so there's skills and there's documentation. I'll say, here's how you create a swarm. It's all pretty lean. And so you could read it as a human, but it's a new era, so you don't have to. And so as we'll see, this is kind of kicking it off. It's going to create some roles. It's going to do some things like this. And so while that's kicking off, let's go ahead and look back and see this one. Okay, so now we can see our results are coming out. And so it tells us a bit of what happened. Here's how long it ran. From 7 p.m. to 12. It was this one. What got done. And so this run was focused and coherent. So it sounds like it actually went quite well. We removed as any. The protocol docs were improved. It's just a game I'm working on, and it needs to kind of have this protocol to relate between different mini games. And so this was a big audit on how can we get that system to work better. It tells us a bit about how much did we touch, what did we change, did our grow or not, and then it'll do this. So this is what went wrong. And so we can say 3 rejections, the same any anti-patterns for any configs mismatch, blah blah. Okay, so what would be next? Is there downstream work to complete? And how can we make a new swarm to take on the next batch of work? And there we go. So that we can just kind of keep chatting about this. And so we can chat about these swarm primitives. And it'll talk about not only the swarm results we made, but the new swarms we want to run in the future. And so go ahead and swap over to this other project here, which is Unleashed itself. And we'll say, see if this one's doing. All right, so now we can kind of see what this has done. And if we look at our results here as it's complete, we've got swarm files are in place. He's done a quick validation path. We have a plan. Got enough context to draft a swarm. It's checked it on some things, create a bug audit. And so if we look at the end here, this is an audit only, not fixes. It's going to create tasks, and it'll tell us, here's how you can kick this off, and here's how it'll detach it in the background. And so great, let's go. This looks good to me. Kick it off. And so I want to highlight this bit as well, because one of the coolest parts about Unleashed is that, like I said, I wanted to make something that reminds me of the extensible days of Vim and Emacs and kind of get us out of these walled garden situations we're in now with these new model providers. And so right here, Git Unleashed, this is the project itself. And what's really, really fun about agentic programming in an IDE you can edit yourself is that if there's any missing features, you just edit it and you just fork it. And so you launch a new conversation, you point it right at the IDE itself, and it's really easy to kind of fix bugs you have in your own editor or even extend that editor to have new features you want. So say you're doing swarms for machine learning and you want your swarms to have weights and biases logs, and it needs to be able to pull in those given API references and show you the charts of the loss. Maybe you want to plot like Andre Karpathy has about here's losses going down. You would simply take Unleashed, kick off a new swarm, and say, let's add this feature. And you could add it right into your IDE. So you're no longer stuck with the IDE you have. And really, my idea is not to maintain this for everyone and not to add all their features, but to kind of launch a base shell that everyone can fork and edit and audit. And it's a really exciting time as we've entered this new era where software can be made really cheap and really fast. And I don't have to make everything for everybody. But given this kind of base and this framework, and it's got a worked out nice UI experience, you can do that for us. So now back to the project, we'll see what it does is it kicks off these swarms. And so when it runs a swarm, it gives us this nice little dialogue for us. And we can kick this off. And so we'll see our swarms just kind of spinning up. We've got these 4 agents that are all warming up now. I think there's a slight bug where it doesn't say pending until they've created their first bit of code. I started to write things to disk, but what they're doing right now is probably just calling tools, searching the code base, and kind of getting ready to do their real work. Um, and so you go back in here, you can kind of look at these workers, and we can start to see what's happening in a worker thread. Looks like here this worker is kicking off. It is kind of doing something, doing some planning. And one of the other cool features of Unleashed here is if you highlight over files, you can see previews of them. So this is just an MD file. Doing that, we can see what's in this one, what's in this one. The same thing works for images, MP4s, HTML. And so one of the reasons I really started this was to get out of the terminal UIs. So we could do stuff like real rich UI features, like embedding docs, overlays, pop-ups. But it ended up evolving into this giant project, and I realized it's the time for swarms, and we need a swarm first IDE. So I hope you give it a try. You can check it out so you can find it here on this GitHub repo, and this is the open source code. It has some images. You can find it here on this GitHub repo. This is the open source code. And there's also a nice little web page that I'm working on. A little bit more detail here. So unleash the swarm. This will give you an install command. I'm just going to git clone it rather than install a package because you want to be able to edit your own environment. So this will copy it locally for you into a folder, and then you'll be able to fork and edit your own version of Unleashed. Please enjoy. Please read the code. Please check out Oompa. Please check out Unleashed, and have a good time. Thanks for watching. Oh shoot, I was supposed to end the stream. Was the goal.